Greetings and salutations, friends. My name is, of course, Charles Q. Banks, and I'd like to welcome you to a review of Anthem. I rarely ever do reviews anymore because they take so much gosh darn energy, but hey, I'm hopped up on coffee right now, so cheers. And also, real quick, I want to show you. I got a hat rack. My parents bought me a hat rack for my birthday, and I'm so happy. You'll see that in future streams if you follow my Twitch channel. The link will be in the description. Anyway, so I've played Anthem. I bit the bullet because of all of the support from my dear viewers on Twitch, the subscribers to the Federation, as well as those who may or may not have subscribed, but they've donated bits and taxes and whatnot, and I'm very thankful to all of them. So I built the bullet and I paid for PS Plus. And when PS Plus was on, there was a special price for Anthem, which took off even more money off of the original price than was taken off for the sale. And the sale was like 90% off already, so I got it for like $5. I don't remember exactly how much it was or how much the original price was, but I got it for extremely cheap, and so I was like, the heck with it. I might as well play it and see what I think about it. The hype seems to have died down completely, to the point of a dead murmur. So, in other words, no murmurs. At least that's how it seemed. But also, the hatred for it seems to have died down to a murmur as well. There's still hatred for it, quite a lot. And I expected to not like the game at all. Although I was willing to give it the benefit of the doubt when I played it. And so I did, and I've played about 35 hours of it so far. Using two accounts, not two accounts, two separate pilots, I suppose, two new games. And the one was a Colossus, the other I intended to be a different Javelin, different mech type, and it turned out, because I had already created one profile using a Colossus, that has to be the Colossus that you use. You have to use that Javelin that you had in the first account. That may have been just a glitch, I don't know, but that was already a bad taste in my mouth. But I gotta say, I had a lot of fun with the Colossus, and I've had a lot of fun with the game since. Like, getting into the game and playing it is really fun. Like, flying around, shooting at things with rockets, and using energy shields, and having a lot of different abilities that you unlock. It's really fun. It really is. It's casual fun. It's not like the most challenging thing I've ever experienced, nor is it the most in-depth combat I've ever played, but it scratches that itch that I've talked about before of the looter-shooter third-person genre, and there aren't too many AAA additions to that genre, especially on the PlayStation consoles. And I am a PlayStation console-only type guy right now, just because of my budget. I would get a PC, and there are quite a few more on that. But on the PS4, the only real looter shooters that are popular these days are The Division, and, Destiny, that's not third person, and Anthem. Those are the biggest ones, and Anthem is obviously the worst of the three. At least that's what people would have you believe. And I'm here to say that they're not wrong. It is the worst. But does that make it bad? Well, yes and no. I was confused to find out that the main reason why people hate Anthem and continue to hate it is not because the moment-to-moment gameplay is unfun. The gameplay is very fun. Like, it is very satisfying to go and wipe out a whole, bevy of scars and fight a giant shielded mech person, another Javelin, and then fight a big old Javelin in its, storm javelin with its shield and using all kinds of abilities against you. It's really fun, and using the guns feels good. It really does. I've heard people say that the gunplay in this game is terrible. I don't know what they're talking about. There's definitely a lot of bullet sponginess to all of the enemies, like every single one, from the lowest minion to the highest overlord. Every single one of them takes hundreds of bullets to kill. Maybe not hundreds for the minions, probably like 30. Usually they take maybe half a clip to a full clip, depending on the difficulty. Clip. Magazine. I don't think there are any clips with guns with clips in them in this game. All magazines, but I will say I see a lot of imbalances with the game. And that doesn't make it unfun. That's the deal. If you're very casual about gameplay, you'll probably enjoy this game. If you're someone who is looking for fast, high twitch reflex, hyper-competitive gameplay, you're not going to find it here. There are a lot of competitive people who are still interested in this game. In fact, when I started streaming it, I got like 30 followers in 2 days because of all of the people who wanted to see more of Anthem and love Anthem and, are just preaching the gospel of Anthem, if you will. Most of them are actually reasonable. They see the flaws with the game. But, man, I've probably gotten more followers in 2 days than I've gotten in the entire rest of the year on any other game. Perhaps even more than I've ever gotten in any one game. It's definitely the most I've gotten with any single game in such a short time. There are still dedicated, loyal fans of the game who've been playing it since the beginning, who want to see more people play it and want to play it with other people. So, that being said, it does have a rather satisfying gameplay loop. And the gameplay does feel quite different from Destiny, even though it is basically the same as Destiny in terms of its concept, its idea. You have a weapon, it's an RPG-style game, you get loot, you get different weapons with different stats and different levels, and the idea is the more missions you do, the more weapons and materials you get in order to create or craft better weapons, or just find better weapons. And abilities are along with that. The items you get are either weapons or abilities. That's basically it. Some of them give stat boosts, but they're all useful weapon-type things. There are no armor upgrades, not really. Not physical, visual armor upgrades. There are armor upgrades that are just straight stat boosts that you add to your support inventory, and that's basically it. You can put... There's a very limited number of weapons, though. Like, if you play Destiny, and a lot of people ask me, how does this game stack up with Destiny? Are the two comparable? And I'm like, of course they are. They're in the same genre, so of course they're comparable. And there are many things that this game has in common with Destiny. But one thing that it doesn't have in common with Destiny is variety. It does have one more class than Destiny, right? Destiny has 3 classes. This one has 4. Haha, big whoop. I will say that what you can do with your javelins, I think, is a bit more interesting than what you can do with Destiny's classes and abilities. Basically, it's kind of similar. There are a few different abilities that you can do with each class, and then an ultimate that is the same for every, say, Colossus in that class. Every Colossus has a siege cannon explosive round that can be fired 3 times, and you don't change that. But the other abilities can be changed, and that's the same for everyone else. They all get a different ultimate, but they can change their secondary abilities. And there are a few abilities, like at least, I think, 4 abilities that you can unlock. You start out with the 1, and then it goes up to 3 after the intro. And the intro, the one thing that I dislike about one of the things that I dislike about the game is how long it takes to get into it. The intro lasts a long time. There are like 8 cutscenes before you actually get to the game. You can skip all of them, and I did that the first time. I skipped through every single cutscene. I was like, okay, I want to play the game. Cutscene. All right, I'll skip the cutscene. Then there's another cutscene. Okay, skip the cutscene. There's another cutscene. Okay, skip. And I kept doing that 8 times, literally 8 times. Then once you get into the game, it gives you a little tutorial level that lasts about 10 minutes, maybe 12 minutes. And then a big boss creature shows up, and then a cutscene happens. And then you have to skip through like 4 or 5 more cutscenes, and then you're at Fort Tarsus. No, you're not. No, then you get set to the open world, right? This is an open world game, and you get sent on a mission. You can fly around the open world to a surprising degree before actually moving on to the mission, which was very fun. You can collect materials, organic materials from like pustules and mushrooms that grow around the jungle, and then there are minerals that you can hack or shoot to get the materials from those, and that's all very fun. I love collecting minerals and items and craftables from worlds whenever I play a game that is like this, an RPG, open world, whether MMO or not. It's always fun to craft for me. Even if the crafting system kind of sucks, like in Bless Unleashed, it's still fun to collect the items in order to craft things. You don't do a whole lot of crafting in this game. It's pretty unnecessary, at least for the campaign. Later on, probably in the end game, we will do a lot more crafting, just in order to get higher level items. But you start out in the open world, and then you get sent straight into a very narrow, linear level that kind of introduces some more lore, and then you're sent back to another cutscene, another 2 cutscenes actually, and then you're in Fort Tarsus, and from there you can forge, look at the forge, which is where you change your weapons and your javelins, but it's very reminiscent of Destiny's hub, the tower, but just smaller. It has like 3 sections, and that's it. And I was actually happy about that. I didn't like how big the tower was, because it felt like I had to, run through a maze in order to get to the NPCs I wanted to talk to. But in this game, it's just one straight hallway and one side area that loops around, and that's it. And a bunch of NPCs, not that many. I thought there would be more. There are about 5 NPCs total that are actually quest givers. I think more pop up as you play the game. But it's very small, and even though there are quite a number of NPCs in there, only like 3 sets of them actually talk. So everyone's, saying that the hub world is quiet and dead is very true, at least in terms of sound design. There's like a very, very barely hearable murmur in the background, but there's no music, and only a few people are conversing, and they always say the same things. So, it's not much of a spectacle. The one spectacle that exists in the hub world is the sky. The skybox is amazing. And the game, generally, let's get to what is good about the game, again, is its world. It looks fantastic. The gameplay is fun. It's kind of meh. Like Destiny, its gameplay is probably more fast-paced than this. Same kind of deal, shooting enemies for a long time and dodging around enemy fire, and then using your abilities. That's all you do, really. But it is a bit slower, so not as punchy or fast-paced as Destiny. I'm okay with that. I actually like the gameplay in this game quite a bit, but I understand why some people wouldn't. But it looks better than Destiny. It really does. Not that Destiny looks bad or anything, but I think they spent the most time trying to make the world look shiny and colorful and impressive, and they nailed it. And all of the javelins have incredible detailing. I went from playing Demon's Souls on the PS5 to playing Anthem, and it was not jarring at all. The textures don't hold up to Demon Souls on the PS5, but they're actually not that bad either. There's tons of foliage, and it all sways in the wind, and I was quite impressed by that. Also, the enemy variety is nice. You might get tired of it after 50 hours or 60 hours if they don't add more, but I like that there are insects, there are gorilla creatures with jetpacks, humans, scars, which are like beetle people, human dominion creatures that are more robotic, send out javelins against you, as well as scorpions, and there are some wyverns, flying dragon-type things that shoot acid at you, and, well, not acid, explosives. Explosive fireballs. They are dragons, basically. Very fun to fight those. So the enemy variety it's not bad either. Probably on par with Destiny. And I know Destiny doesn't have that many enemies to begin with, but that being said, they both are passable in terms of variety. I could do with more, but the ones that exist are actually very unique in Anthem. So, yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to say. I haven't finished the game. I will continue to play the game on my stream, if you wish. But does this game deserve the hatred that it gets? And this is where the negative comes in. Yes and no. The gameplay, like I said, and the graphics and the environment and the enemies and the details, the designs, great. 8 out of 10, you know. Not the best, but not terrible, and better than most games in its genre, I would say. And these are all my opinions, but I mean, you gotta compare and contrast things, and I think this looks better than most games in its genre I've played. But the problem is not with the gameplay, it's with getting to the gameplay. The menu system and the interface is awful. It's like the worst menu system I've seen in any game ever. And that is not good, because you'll be spending a lot of time in the menus. You have to, in order to actually get anywhere. You want to go to the hub world. You have to go through like 3 different menus, push 3 different buttons in each menu in order to actually get back to it, unless you hit a certain button that shows up a different menu, and then you can hit that button again and go straight back. But then it asks the question, and you have to press X. Are you sure you want to go back? Yes. You want to end session? Yes. So there's a lot of that, like a lot of confirmations that are unnecessary when you're already in a menu. It's really hard to get out of a match or a session, a gaming session, out in the world or out in a campaign mission. And that's a turnoff, you know? You kind of don't want to go into a mission if you don't know how to go back. And I've seen lots of people play through the game and never know how to actually go back to Fort Tarsus, never figure it out. And that's kind of on them, because you can figure it out, and like you can look it up, Google it, you know. But if you have to Google how to use the menus, then something is wrong with the menus. Actually, a lot is wrong with the menus. It's just unintuitive and difficult to do anything. It's really weird, because there's a button to go on expeditions that lets you open up the map and choose where you go on missions. And there's also your javelin that you have to walk to in order to open the same menu. If you want to, I guess. Like, there's no reason to have a javelin and that button that gets you into expeditions at the same time, but they have it, so it's kind of like, is this different? No, I guess not. And then there's the forge, which you can open the same way. You can either walk up to it or open it in the menu. And then there's just tons of layers in the menus that most of it is unimportant information, but some of it is really important and is hidden in one of the tabs, and you don't know until someone tells you that you should look at that and use that. For instance, I myself am a very private person. I'm very much an introvert. And so I want to play on private. I don't like the fact that this game is online only or a continual service, game as service type thing. I think that's one of the worst things that this era of gaming has brought forward, and I think that needs to die. Online, like, services, live service method of marketing and gameplay design is it's just terrible. People defend it for business reasons, but you can make just enough money if you just make a good game and sell it. So I'm fully an advocate for single-player games that are single-player only, and multiplayer games that are multiplayer only, and just make them good without having to make it online only. If it is online only, make it free to play. And if it's not, don't put microtransactions in it. And this game does have microtransactions. I didn't actually get hit over the head very much with microtransactions. There's just a menu and a shop in the hub world to access real world money spending cosmetics. And it's mostly cosmetics, but I do think there might be XP boosters. I haven't looked into that, and I don't care if there is or isn't. If there's cosmetics already, you're already down the wrong rabbit hole, if you will. But, so that's a problem. But, yeah, so there's the menus, and I think I've said enough. But no, I haven't, because I'm a private person, right? I want to play privately, and in order to do that, you have to press R3 when in the map menu, specifically when you're in the Javelin. What? Excuse me? And then a thing shows up, and then you have to go down to network, hit network, and say private or public, and then you can hit private, and then it asks, are you sure you want to go private? You can't have people with you if you're on private, and that's annoying. But, so that's, the menus are just bad, and it's really hard to figure out anything about Anthem from the menus. But there's a lot of lore there that you can read if you want. So there's that. Then the next negative thing, the crashes. Yes. The game has so many crashes. I mean, so apparently on PC, they have fixed most crashes. I can't say how it functions on PC. I only have played it on the PS5 myself, and the servers go down every day about 4 o'clock, between 4 and 6 o'clock. Almost like clockwork, but sometimes they go down before that, and they reset on purpose every single day during work hours. Which is really weird, especially if you're a streamer and you're just streaming in the middle of the day, and then all of a sudden the game shuts off and sends you back to the start, and it's like, why? Why would you do this? Why don't you put it in like the AM? You know, it's an American game. You could put it at American off times, but they don't, which is really annoying. And I don't know why they have to reset the servers so often. It is really annoying, and so many times I've been in the game, playing, trying to get somewhere, making progress, and then the game just hard cuts to the beginning. And I'm like, my progress, though. I've usually been able to get into the game again quickly after that. Quickly as in after like 2 or 3 minutes. Because the load screens are so bad. And that's another negative. The load screens take at least 30 seconds to a minute to get through, and that's every time you want to go back to Fort Tarsis or go to a menu, or even go into a specific instance. Like if a mission has you in the open world and then you have to go into an instanced like boss fight or something, then you have to wait through another load screen. And if you get sent back to the start because of a server issue, then you have to wait through a load screen there, and then you're back to the main menu, and then the servers and everything has to authenticate and download again, or whatever it does, and that takes like 30 seconds. And then you press start, and then another load screen happens, and you go through it all again. So the load screens are really bad, even compared to other MMOs I've played on the PlayStation 5. It's not good to have those load screens so often, or for so long. But, I don't know, on a PS4, a game looking this good, I can kind of, apologize for it. It's like, it's not that bad. I was almost okay with the Bloodborne load times when it, took like a minute to load, just because that game was so good. This game is not quite that good, but it has load screens that are as bad. So, yeah, make of that what you will. So then, not only are there server issues and load screens, there are also hard crashes that I've experienced. Had nothing to do with the servers, just error message came up, and I was sent back to the start. That's really bad. And that doesn't happen every day, but it's like every 3 days. Yeah, I've played the game for like 2 weeks, solid, and not okay with that. I see, the gameplay is really good, but if it didn't have any of these, the game would be great. But it's not good enough to warrant getting through all of that garbage, Getting into the game is the hardest thing about the game. And I cannot tell you how much it destroys a game to have it be difficult to get into it. I don't want to play the game anymore because of those issues. Not because of the gameplay itself, not because of the glitches that sometimes happen. Hilarious glitches where enemies will just pop out of existence or pop into existence or fly up into the sky or get stuck on some terrain and glitch out crazily. Those are okay. Like, I'm totally okay with games having those glitches every so often, like every couple hours or something, to run into something like that. That's not bad, and that's how often it happens. And they haven't fixed those glitches, which is a little weird, but it doesn't break the game. There are no game-breaking bugs or glitches within the gameplay itself. No T-posing. This isn't Cyberpunk. But hard crashes, that is game-breaking. And I cannot apologize on behalf of the game for that. It's really a big problem on console, and I cannot recommend this game because of those things to anyone. But if you're willing to go through all of that, there is a great game in kind of hidden within the game that exists in Anthem. The potential for this game was massive, and it only fails because of the quality of life, the lack of quality of life solutions. There's really weird developmental issues happened, and it shows. There's some really weird developmental problems that have arisen in the game, and it's a very strange experience because I really want to play the game, but I don't want to play the game. I don't want to play the meta game of having to get through the menus in order to play the true game, which is actually fun. It may be a bit more simplistic than something like The Division. May not have as many weapon varieties or enemy varieties, but man, it looks really good, it sounds good, it feels good to play, and there's no other game like it that plays like it. So, yeah, there's no resurrecting Anthem. There's only a lamenting for what could have been. And the present game that exists, which is kind of a mess, but a beautiful mess. So I would give Anthem probably a 6 out of 10. Because the graphics and the gameplay raise it from the sludge of its development. And I know that the game was even worse, even more crashes, even more bugs, terrible to play at the beginning, less variety. And there are some other nitpicky things, like I would like to be able to find javelins, or maybe have more javelins to unlock in the game. It's like there are 4 javelins in a AAA game that is meant to be somewhat MMORPG of an experience. That's really low. It's kind of like Mortal Shell has 4, and that's just okay. Like, that game skates by on its, its identity as an independent game development team that made it. And having 4 shells is like just enough. Like, I want more. I really do for Mortal Shell. It's a very short game, so having 4 shells isn't that bad. And the game that is there is pretty quality, But this is not an independent game. This is AAA, and you want more anyway. Despite the fact that you can play this game, just the campaign, for probably about, I don't know, 40 to 50 hours. So, yeah, there is a lack of content. But the gameplay loop, if you're into that, none of the rest matters. And there are quite a few people who think that way and who love the game in spite of all of its issues and problems, and I am one of them. I enjoy the game. It's just whether or not my craving for that specific type of gameplay will overshadow the errors and the imminent crashes that could happen. And I will play this game more on stream, because people want to see it. And I don't always have to play it for 6 or 8 hours in a row. I can play it for 4 hours and be done, And perhaps, if I do that, we won't actually run into any crashes or server issues. Maybe. So, 6 out of 10 from me. Would recommend to those who think that the gameplay itself is worth it, but nobody else. And that is my review. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you weren't too bored by this. No edits, really, except for taking out some spaces. So do forgive me if I said something that tweaked your nostrils. So thanks for watching again. Until next time, God bless, and fare thee well. Goodbye.